Hi. Today I want to talk about neutrality and negativity. This is something that's been going through my head today. I was hoping to maybe jump into the chapters of Mastering Your Illusion, maybe covering one or two or the introduction, but still feel like I'm laying groundwork for all that. Plus, each one of the chapters in Mastering Your Illusion covers a different aspect of life that I feel is important to take a look at or pay attention to help make adjustments to live a better life. And had I been still writing the book, there might actually been a chapter called Neutrality and Negativity, which there still could be. I mean, I haven't really done anything with the book. It's done, completed, but since I haven't published it or released it yet, I can always go back and add chapters. So this may actually end up at some point having an entire chapter written about it. But little explanation first about what I mean by neutrality and negativity. We live in cycles. Everything around us is cyclical. Everything. So you're going to go through a pattern, and then it's going to repeat, and then it's going to repeat, and it's going to repeat. Small scale, large scale. It's always happening. It's happening to everyone, everywhere. Earth rotation, lunar cycles. I mean, just it's there. It's everywhere. And from a human standpoint, we have our own individual cycles, but we're also influenced by all the cycles that we're subjected to. So there's always going to be light periods and dark periods in your life, and there's going to be sometimes, and in my case, it happens quite a bit. It is a natural part of my rotation. There's always a void. It's natural. There's going to be those periods in your life where you don't feel connected to anything. And I think I probably misdiagnosed that through my earlier life more often than not. And when I say neutrality versus negativity, when you're feeling disconnected, when you're feeling that void, you're not really in tune with anything, you're cut off from everything, you're neutral. You're in a neutral state. And I have a tendency, and I think probably a lot of people do, to automatically assign negativity to that state. And I don't know if that really makes sense, but the idea is if you don't have some kind of positive stimulus, you don't have some kind of connection, something to really bond to during those disconnected, neutral states, I have a tendency to just label it as negative. And then as soon as I do that, negativity starts to present itself. Allows me to slip into states of rage, depression, you name it. There's just anything along the negative scale of human emotions. As soon as you've classified and labeled a situation as negative, as soon as you see it as a negative, it's negative. I mean, the only way to change it is to find some good in it, or you reestablish your connection and you're like, oh, well, I got through that negative phase. Well, it may not have been negative to begin with until you labeled it as that. So it happened to me this weekend. I had a very upbeat, positive week. I started making the recordings. I started feeling like I was embracing what I was meant to do, something I did for years and years and years, and then just kind of like cut it off, kind of abandoned. And there are reasons for that. And it's not something that I'm going to discuss during this recording, but there's always a reason for everything. And it's identifying those reasons that helps you get through everything, but sometimes you can't identify it. And it's that neutral state. I mean, if you're not seeing things clearly, if you're not feeling connected to anything in your life, you're in one of those void states. And again, I really challenge you to look at your life and try to identify the difference between being in a negative state of mind and a neutral state of mind. And how often do you end up in a neutral state of mind and it becomes a negative state of mind? It's a pitfall that I fall into a lot. So, I was upbeat, looking very much forward to this path that I've engaged in or re-engaged. And Saturday came along and I just was not feeling it. I just was absolutely void of joy, of enthusiasm, of the ability to appreciate the beauty around me. And that's when I can tell when I'm slipping into one of those neutral states, is the absence of the, being able to appreciate beauty. And you get into those states, or I do, and food doesn't taste as good as it normally does. Something that you normally enjoy just doesn't seem to bring you any joy. It's just, you're in that funky void, and then all of a sudden, because you're not feeling good, or you're not able to connect with what you have labeled or identified as positive, then you automatically shift it to a negative perception in your mind. And it's maybe not the case, but as soon as you do that, then it is the case. You've just created that. You've created a negative environment that you are existing in because maybe you misread or misinterpreted that part of your cycle. So this is going to be a really short one today. I don't really feel the need to harp on this, because it is what it is. It's pretty self-explanatory. Be mindful of it. If you're getting into that state, you start to feel what you would classify as down or depressed or angry, and you cannot pinpoint a reason why. There wasn't some active stimulus in your life that triggered that. It just, all of a sudden, you're not feeling anything anymore, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, it's bad then. It's bad. And then you start looking or creating events in your life to be angry about. Yeah, and you draw those things to you. And you could probably avoid it if you just say, all right, well, and I love this term, weather the storm, stay the course, whatever cliche you want to tie onto this to help you understand it and remember it. But that's all it is. It's just an absence of light. It's no different than the sun going down at night and having to figure out what to do in the dark. You can turn a light on, for one thing, and that's metaphoric for how you live your life. But, sometimes it's an issue of power outage. How's that for a metaphor? And you don't have the ability to turn on a light. So just analyze it going forward, thinking about, where you are, what you're doing. If everything's going along well, you're happy, you're excited, you're feeling very content with your life, joyful on the high end, just accepting, understanding on the low end. If there isn't a specific trigger that got you to that negative mindset, then take a minute to just decide whether or not, or is it just, am I feeling neutral? And it's much better to say I'm in a neutral mood than I'm in a bad mood. I'm just not feeling anything today, because we grasp at the first thing we can grab a hold of, and it's almost always negative. Never once in that disconnected state, for me, have I ever went, oh wow, I'm really positive about this. It's the inability to see positivity, to connect with the good that is surrounds you. I mean, just the inability to reach out and touch it. It's there. You just can't connect to it. Doesn't automatically mean bad. Doesn't mean negative. But 99% of the time for me in that state, that's my go-to reaction. All right, well, this is negative. And then all of a sudden I'm in a bad mood, and I'm creating circumstances, or I'm finding reasons to be upset or down about something, and there's really nothing there. There's no root to that that's legitimate. It's just, it's all made up. It's all fantasy. It's all hallucination. So that's all I can say is be mindful of those dark situations, that you don't assign negativity to that when it's not necessarily a negative situation. Simple as that.